I wasn't supposed to be there that night. Honestly, I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the word award. I'm not one of those people who chase recognition. I build systems, fix bugs, and keep things running while the leaders take pictures for LinkedIn. My job is the kind that doesn't get noticed unless it breaks, and I was fine with that, until the email showed up. It came on a Monday around 9:47 a.m. while I was knee-deep in an Excel macro that refused to behave. The subject line said, "You've been nominated for the Annual Employee Excellence Award." At first I thought it was spam. We get those fake HR messages all the time. But when I hovered over the sender, it was legit. HR department, internal domain. My first reaction wasn't pride. It was confusion. I hadn't applied. I hadn't even known nominations were open. So I did what I always do. Checked the fine print. It said the nomination came from my department head, Colin. That made me pause. Colin's not exactly the let's lift others up type. He's the kind of guy who forgets your name until he needs a report. Still, I walked over to his office to make sure it wasn't some mistake. He was mid-call, headset on, pretending to look busy. When he saw me, he gestured for 2 minutes, and then just kept talking. After 5, he muted himself and said, Yeah, you got the email. HR handles those. Congratulations, I guess. Did you nominate me? I asked. Technically, it's a team thing. They needed someone from our division. Don't overthink it. He unmuted before I could say anything else. I walked out of his office feeling like I'd been handed a participation trophy for breathing. But still, the idea of being in that ballroom, wearing something other than code-stained hoodies, felt strange, not exciting, just out of place. Like a janitor being asked to give a TED Talk. I told myself I wouldn't even go. But HR made it mandatory for all nominees, which sounded less like an honor and more like a trap. So Friday night, I found myself standing in front of a mirror, adjusting a borrowed tie that didn't match my shirt, wondering why this felt like a setup. The event was held in the company's main conference center, the one with glass walls and bad acoustics that make everyone's laughter sound artificial. Inside, there were banners with words like innovation and synergy, as if typography could make anyone care. People were already clinking glasses. HR had gone all out. Catering, stage lights, even a slideshow of smiling employees that looked like stock photos. I tried to blend into the back, near the sound booth. That's where guys like me belong. Quiet, observing, unnoticed. That's when I saw her. Melissa, our HR director. If there's a face that could launch 1,000 emails marked per my last message, it's hers. Immaculate hair, glass of wine in hand, that kind of smile that looks like it's practiced in front of a mirror. She spotted me immediately. "Oh, the mystery man himself," she said, gliding over like a shark in heels. "I wasn't hiding," I replied, half smiling. She laughed. "You could have fooled me. You're the tech guy, right? The one who made that budget thing everyone keeps talking about?" "The analytics dashboard, yeah," I said. She nodded, eyes scanning me like she was measuring ROI. "Well, let's hope your dashboard skills translate to social skills tonight. You might have to say a few words if you win." "Wait, what? I thought it was just nominations." She sipped her wine. "Oh, you sweet summer child. It's a whole show. Cameras, speeches, the works?" I laughed politely, but something about her tone stuck. The way she said, "show." Like she already knew the script. Throughout the evening, people drifted over. Managers, coordinators, interns, offering polite small talk. Most of them had no idea who I was. "Oh, you're the data guy?" "Right. The system something. I think my login stopped working once. Maybe you fixed it?" That last one hurt more than it should have. When dinner ended, the lights dimmed. Melissa took the stage. Her voice filled the hall. Bright, rehearsed, dripping with corporate cheer. "Tonight," she began, "we celebrate not just results, but the people behind them. The innovators, the problem solvers, the team players." Every time she said team player, her eyes flicked toward our department's table, toward me. I told myself I was imagining it. Then she said something that made the air shift around me. And of course, every great team has that one quiet genius. You know, the person who hides behind spreadsheets, but somehow keeps the lights on for the rest of us. A few people chuckled. That's why this year, our division's nominee is someone who probably hasn't been outside his cubicle since the pandemic. Our very own data wizard, Ethan Shaw. Applause. Polite, scattered. I smiled thinly, stood up, gave the awkward half-wave people do when they're caught off guard. But she wasn't done. As I walked toward the stage, Melissa leaned into the mic again. Let's see if he can handle a crowd as well as he handles code, huh? Laughter. Louder this time. Something inside me tightened, but I kept walking. When I reached the podium, she handed me the mic. All smiles. Go on, Ethan. Tell us how it feels to be dragged out of the server room and into the spotlight. The audience laughed again. I could feel my pulse in my jaw. I didn't prepare a speech, I said quietly. I didn't even know I was nominated. Melissa grinned. That's okay. Spontaneous honesty is rare around here. More laughter. She turned back to the audience, clearly enjoying herself. And that's when I noticed someone at the far end of the room, an older man in a dark suit, sitting alone at a table marked reserved. He wasn't laughing. He was just watching, expressionless, focused. I didn't know who he was, not yet. But in less than 10 minutes, he'd turned the entire room silent. I've never been afraid of public speaking. I've presented to clients, handled audits, pitched new systems. But that night, standing under that bright stage light with a mic in my hand and Melissa smirking beside me, it didn't feel like presenting. It felt like being cornered. Her tone wasn't warm or teasing anymore. It was performative, the kind that needs an audience to exist. You know, she said onto her mic, pretending to be casual, Ethan's one of those people who sends emails so detailed you could write a novel out of them. Right, Ethan? Laughter again. I smiled, but not with my eyes. That's because no one reads the short ones, I said, and a few people actually laughed for real this time. Not the forced corporate kind. Melissa blinked, just a flicker of surprise before she regained her footing. Oh, he's witty tonight. Careful, Ethan, or we might have to move you out of IT and into PR. The room chuckled again, but it was uneven, some polite, some uncomfortable. I caught a glimpse of Colin at our table, shaking his head slightly. He wasn't enjoying this either, though I couldn't tell if it was for me or for optics. Melissa turned the spotlight back on me. So tell us, she said sweetly, what's the secret to winning this nomination? Lots of caffeine? Or did you bribe the servers to crash just to stay relevant? The laughter this time had teeth. I froze for half a second. Not because it hurt, but because it was so deliberate. That line wasn't off the cuff. It was written, rehearsed, maybe even shared ahead of time. And that's when I realized this wasn't a celebration. It was a performance, and I was the punchline. I looked down at my shoes for a moment, just to buy a breath. The mic felt heavier than it should have. When I looked up again, I didn't look at her. I looked at the audience. People were watching, some smiling, some looking away, pretending to check their phones. No one said a thing, so I took a step forward. Well, I said evenly, I guess if keeping the company's servers from crashing for 3 years straight doesn't count as relevant, then maybe next year I'll try crashing the HR database instead. A pause. Then, a low wave of laughter. This time genuine, even a few claps. Melissa's smile faltered. Oh, someone's feeling bold tonight, she said, half laughing, half warning. I kept my voice level. No, just accurate. That earned a few sharp exhales around the room. Not laughter, but something close to shock. For the first time, Melissa seemed unsure. Her fingers tapped the mic stand. All right. Let's keep it friendly. We're all family here, right? Depends on who's at the reunion, I said, still calm. That line wasn't planned. It just came out, quiet but clean. Something shifted in the air. The laughter didn't return. The energy in the room changed. Small ripples of discomfort spreading from table to table. Melissa forced a laugh. "You're full of surprises, Ethan. Maybe next time we'll script your jokes ahead of time." "Maybe next time you'll let the nominations speak for themselves," I replied. And that's when she broke. Just a crack in the polished glass of her face. A brief flash of annoyance that betrayed everything beneath it. She leaned into the mic. "Well, it's funny. This nomination almost went to someone else, but your manager insisted we put you up. Guess it's good to have friends in the right places." There it was. The sting. The implication that I hadn't earned it. That Colin, the same man who barely knew what my job was, had somehow handed me this for convenience. I looked at Colin, who was now frozen, pretending to smile. People turned toward him, whispers starting. Melissa smiled again, satisfied. "Anyway, give him another round of applause, folks. Our quiet hero of the servers." She reached for the mic, clearly expecting me to hand it back, but I didn't. I kept it in my hand, held it steady, and said, "Still calm, still quiet. For the record, the analytics dashboard you mentioned earlier saved this company $2.3 million last quarter. It flagged cost leaks in 3 departments, including HR." The silence was instant. Melissa froze. "Excuse me?" I looked her right in the eye. "You're welcome." And then I handed her the mic. It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, but the kind of silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. No applause, no laughter, just the hum of the air vents and a few people suddenly fascinated by their napkins. Melissa laughed, brittle. "Well, numbers are important, aren't they?" She tried to move on, but her rhythm was gone. She shuffled her cue cards, tripped over her next line, and kept glancing toward the back of the room. That's when I noticed the man again, the one sitting alone at the reserved table. Only now he wasn't sitting anymore. He was standing, tall, calm, hands clasped in front of him. Melissa noticed, too. Her voice faltered mid-sentence. "Oh, Chairman," she said, her voice pitching slightly. "I didn't know you'd—" He lifted a hand, cutting her off. "I'll take it from here," he said, his voice steady, deliberate. And just like that, she stepped aside. No one breathed. No one even moved their forks. He walked toward the stage slowly, each step measured. You could hear the sound of his shoes against the floor, sharp, echoing in the silence she'd created. He took the mic from the stand, looked at her, then at me, then out at the room. And then silence. The kind that means something's gone wrong. The man didn't rush. He didn't need to. His silence carried weight. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for attention, but demands it. When he reached the center of the stage, Melissa instinctively stepped back, her practiced smile frozen like paint that wouldn't dry. I'd never seen her look unsure before, not once. He adjusted the mic slightly, tested it with a quiet "thank you," then turned to the audience. "Good evening," he began. "My name is Richard Halloway, chairman of the board." You could feel the shift. Hundreds of eyes widened in sync, a small wave of recognition and panic. He wasn't supposed to be here. He rarely came to internal functions, especially not staff award nights. The man was practically mythic. Rumored to run 3 subsidiaries at once, a face you saw only in annual reports and framed portraits. And now he was here, standing on a stage that suddenly looked too small for him. Melissa tried to interject, nervously. "Chairman, we—" But he lifted a hand, not rude, just final. "I wasn't planning to speak tonight," he said, "but sometimes silence does more harm than words, and I've heard enough silence this evening." He turned his head just slightly toward Melissa. You could see her composure unravel by degrees. He looked back at me. "Mr. Shaw, is it?" "Yes, sir." "You built the analytics dashboard last year?" "I did." He nodded once. "Good." I read the report. The system identified 37 inefficiencies across departments. Saved us approximately $2.3 million by redirecting redundant spending, including, he paused, a marketing retainer we didn't need, a consultancy that was double billing, and a hiring initiative that HR failed to justify. A low ripple went through the crowd, subtle like a current under the surface. Melissa's jaw tightened. Her hand gripped her cue cards so hard that one of them bent. The chairman continued, his tone even, almost conversational. I'm told you weren't aware you were nominated for this award. That's strange, given that your project was the most financially impactful one this year. He looked back at her. Can you explain that, Ms. Davis? Her voice cracked. We try to balance categories. You know, give recognition to all divisions. Balance, he repeated softly. That's an interesting word. You balance recognition the same way you balance budgets? A small laugh escaped somewhere in the crowd. Nervous, stifled, real. Melissa's face flushed. The chairman went on, voice still calm but sharper now. I've reviewed every award nomination this week. I do that quietly before events like this. It helps me understand the culture we're building. He turned slightly to the audience. And what I saw was informative. He looked back at her. Do you know how many people nominated themselves, Miss Davis? She blinked. I'm not sure. 34, he said. Do you know how many people nominated others? Silence. He nodded toward me. One? Him? The room froze. It took a second for people to understand. I didn't nominate myself, I said quietly, confused. He looked at me. No. You nominated an intern, correct? I swallowed. Yes. She handled the back-end testing. She deserved the credit. He smiled. A real one, small but genuine. Integrity doesn't hide in job titles. He turned to the crowd. That's why this award exists. Or at least it's supposed to. Then he set his hand on the podium and leaned forward just slightly. But when the person responsible for administering it turns recognition into ridicule, when they use it as a stage for humiliation instead of honor, that tells me something's broken. No one breathed. Melissa tried to step in, her voice trembling now. Sir, with all due respect, this was just light-hearted. He cut her off again, but softer this time. You embarrassed one of the only employees here who doesn't play games, who shows up early, fixes what others break, and asks for nothing. You turned that into entertainment. Why? Her throat moved, but no words came out. He looked at her for a moment longer, then back at the room. I've been in business 40 years. You can fake charisma. You can fake teamwork. But you can't fake decency. It landed like a hammer. Every syllable a measured strike. He turned to me again. Ethan, what's your position? Senior data analyst, sir. Not anymore, he said simply. Effective Monday, you'll report directly to me. I want you leading the new operations efficiency team. The room murmured, disbelief mixed with awe. I didn't move. I couldn't. Melissa's voice came small, desperate. Sir, you can't just... I can, he said, still not raising his voice. And I did. I expect your resignation letter by noon tomorrow. She blinked rapidly, mouth opening, then closing. Her eyes flicked from him to me, like maybe one of us would save her. Neither of us did. The chairman turned back to the microphone, looked out across the sea of faces, and smiled faintly. Now that's an award worth giving. He handed the mic to the event coordinator and walked off the stage, unhurried. Melissa stood there for a second, clutching her cue cards, face pale under the lights, before following him with small, hollow steps. The applause started slow, hesitant, like people weren't sure if they were allowed to. Then it spread, and when it reached me, it wasn't the sound that hit hardest. It was the faces. People who'd never looked up from their screens before now meeting my eyes. Nodding, smiling, a few even standing. I didn't bow, didn't smile back, just stepped off the stage quietly and sat back down at my table. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from release. 3 years of invisible work, suddenly visible. The chairman had already left through the side door. Melissa was gone too. The stage light softened. The chatter slowly returned, awkward and uneven, like a record restarting after a skip. Colin leaned over from the next chair, voice low. "You just changed the pecking order, man." "I didn't mean to," I said. He grinned. "That's why it worked?" I didn't reply. I just looked at my untouched drink, at the shimmer of the glass catching the last of the stage light. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. That night, I stopped being the background guy. The next morning, the office didn't feel the same. You could tell by the way people whispered, not the usual gossip, not the background noise of a normal Monday. It was quieter, heavier. When I walked in, heads turned just slightly, then back to their screens. The kind of acknowledgement you don't get for being liked, but for being noticed. I didn't change my route. Didn't walk faster or slower, just went straight to my desk, opened my laptop, and started where I left off. With data. Numbers don't stare. Numbers don't choose sides. But that morning, even the numbers felt different. Around 10 a.m., Colin appeared at my cubicle. No knock, no forced grin, just a quiet nod. "Chairman's office wants to see you," he said. My stomach tightened, but I nodded. "All right." He hesitated a second longer than usual. "For what it's worth, you handled that better than anyone I've ever seen." "I didn't handle anything," I said. "It just happened." He gave me a look, one part respect, one part disbelief, and walked off. The chairman's office sat on the 17th floor, where the air smelled like polished wood and filtered money. The receptionist smiled, the kind of smile that only comes with clear instructions. "He's expecting you, Mr. Shaw." I stepped inside. The room was all glass and shadows, sunlight cutting sharp lines across the desk. Richard Halloway stood by the window, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He looked like someone who could command a boardroom or fix a hinge, depending on the day. "Morning, Ethan," he said, turning. "Sit." I did. He studied me for a moment before speaking. "You looked calm last night," he said. "That's rare. Most people shake or freeze. You didn't." "I didn't feel calm," I admitted. "I just didn't want to give her what she wanted." He smiled faintly. "Good instinct." He walked to the desk, opened a folder, and slid a printed memo toward me. "Operations Efficiency Team. You'll head it. Small group for now. 2 analysts, 1 project coordinator. Budget's flexible. You'll report directly to me once a week." I stared at the paper, trying to process it. "Sir, I appreciate that, but—" He cut me off with a raised hand. "Don't thank me. You earned it. The numbers proved it long before last night." He leaned back slightly. "You want to know the truth? I came to that event to observe. Anonymous, quiet. I'd heard rumors about the culture here, about people like Ms. Davis using the spotlight for power plays. I wanted to see it for myself." He paused. "She made it easy." I said nothing. There was nothing to add. He sighed lightly. "She resigned this morning, effective immediately. The board will reassign her replacement next week." I nodded once. Then he smiled, a small, knowing one. "You'll be fine, Ethan. You've got what most people in this building lost a long time ago." "What's that?" "Dignity without the need for witnesses." He stood, offered his hand. I shook it. That was it. No ceremony. No second speech. Just closure. Clean, deliberate, and done. The next few weeks blurred into quiet routine. People treated me differently now. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Conversations paused when I walked in. Managers made eye contact. Even Colin stopped calling me buddy and started saying Ethan. I didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. I did my work, led my new team, and left at 6 like always. The irony was the promotion didn't feel like a victory. It felt like peace. The same office where I used to feel invisible now gave me space to breathe. My new team, 2 analysts and a coordinator named June, worked like adults. No politics, no ego, just purpose. We rebuilt systems that actually made sense. One afternoon, June asked me quietly, "Were you nervous that night when she called you up?" I smiled. I was terrified. She laughed softly. Didn't look like it. Doesn't matter how it looked, I said. What matters is what happens after. She nodded. That was enough. A month later, I found myself back in the same conference hall. This time for a quarterly report. No stage lights, no laughter, just charts, slides, and water bottles that tasted faintly of plastic. Halfway through the presentation, I noticed the reserve table again, empty this time. But the space itself, the memory of that silence, still felt sacred. When the meeting ended, people filtered out quietly. I stayed behind a moment, just looking at the stage. It was smaller than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing it differently. I thought about what the chairman said, dignity without witnesses. It stuck with me, because that's exactly what the next months felt like. Not triumph, not revenge, just balance restored. Melissa's name never came up again. Her office was cleared out in a day. Her name tag replaced by someone younger, quieter, careful with words. HR emails came without jokes now, no playful barbs in all staff memos. It was like the entire company had taken a collective breath. I never told anyone what it felt like that night. Not the embarrassment, not the relief, not even the strange, heavy quiet afterward. It didn't need retelling. Some moments aren't meant for retweets or quotes. They're meant to live in your spine, to remind you what you'll never tolerate again. That Friday, I walked out of the building around 7. The parking lot was almost empty, the air cool with early spring. I sat in my car for a minute, watching the office lights flicker off one by one. I thought about how easy it would have been to laugh along that night, to stay quiet, to take the insult, to let it slide. That's what most people do. That's what I used to do. But silence, real silence, isn't the absence of words. It's the moment when everything fake falls away. And in that room, when the chairman stood up and the laughter died, I realized something. I didn't need to raise my voice to be heard. I just needed to stop letting others speak for me. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it on LinkedIn. I went home, microwaved leftovers, and sat by the window with my cat, watching the lights of the city blink like tiny apologies. Some victories are loud. This one wasn't. It was clean. It was quiet. It was mine. Respect doesn't need applause, just silence.